Career Fear, and How to Beat It, by Somi Arian. What if you were told that an engineer was currently developing code that could transform, or even wipe out, your job forever? With the proliferation of automation and artificial intelligence, that scenario may not be too far off. In fact, many once popular careers risk going extinct in just 5 years' time. Despite the unprecedented speed of technological change in the 21st century, there's nothing to fear. These blinks will equip you with a healthy perspective on the future of artificial intelligence by looking at the history of work. They'll also shed light on the resilient mindset and the unique human skills you'll need in order to evolve with, and thrive in, the future of work. The evolution of work is fueled by technological disruption. Imagine you're in the back seat of a parked car. You're looking out the window. What do you see? Maybe you're stuck in traffic on a busy highway, so you can see every detail of the buildings, trees, and flowers on the side of the road. Traffic begins to let up a little. Now that the car is moving, you can still enjoy the view outside, though in less detail. Then the driver accelerates to 180 miles per hour. Suddenly, everything outside becomes a blur. The car's moving so fast that you can't make out a thing. Well, that's pretty much how digital technologies and artificial intelligence have impacted the work landscape of the 21st century. Change is happening so fast that, as professionals, we don't have enough time to establish the challenges directly ahead of us. The key message here is, the evolution of work is fueled by technological disruption. It's well established that the processing power of computers is doubling every other year. As once human tasks get automated at a dizzying pace, many popular career paths could disappear in the not-so-distant future. With the emergence of self-driving vehicles, for example, who knows if a career in transportation will be an option in 20 years' time. But before we look at what the future holds, it's important to understand how technology has transformed work throughout history. Looking at the past will give us a glimpse of what's on the horizon. Since the beginning of civilization, transformations in work culture have been caused by 3 distinct technological changes: innovation, disruption, and revolution, often in that order. An early example of a technological innovation that revolutionized work is the watch. In the early days of the first industrial revolution, there wasn't a way to truly tell time. Factory managers were known to cheat employees into working longer hours. On the flip side, workers tried to misrepresent the hours they'd actually worked. It wasn't until the invention of the watch in the late 18th century that clocking systems became central to the workplace. Of course, once factory managers and workers both started carrying watches, the workplace became obsessed with timekeeping and what the author terms dehumanized time. Bosses wanted to get the most out of workers each day, while workers only wanted to do the work for the specific hours they were being paid. Now that time was being measured against human productivity. A new culture was forming, much of it shaped by a man named Frederick Taylor. The 3 dominant work cultures today are corporate, startup, and influencer. Frederick Taylor, the first ever management consultant, was a late 19th century engineer who believed that humans could work just like machines. He conducted experiments to improve industrial efficiency while working as a foreman in a Philadelphia steel factory. Eventually, he found that breaking down the steel-making process into smaller tasks allowed him to hire unskilled workers to master one small piece of the job. Collectively, they performed work that normally required engineers. Using a stopwatch to time how long it took to complete a given task, Taylor set a standard for output based on the best workers. By compartmentalizing a task-based process, Taylor transformed steelwork and set a precedent for the future of labor. His task-based method would spread from the factory floor to businesses around the world, changing work culture forever. Here's the key message. The 3 dominant work cultures today are corporate, startup, and influencer. Taylor's enthusiasm for task-based productivity spread quickly and paved the way for another dominant work culture we see today: corporate culture. Before corporations began to dominate the economy in the late 20th century, workers were largely valued for their physical fortitude. How many pounds could they lift or how much steel could they cast? But as mass production technologies expanded and factory work was disrupted, companies began to value so-called knowledge workers. Instead of brawn, these laborers used analytical skills. While knowledge workers enjoyed higher income and living standards, they continued to perform task-based jobs like their predecessors on the factory floor. But creativity remained discouraged for the sake of productivity, and many lacked emotional satisfaction from their work. Just as factory workers inspired corporate culture, dissatisfied knowledge workers led to the rise of startup culture in the 1960s. Peter Drucker, another renowned management consultant, advocated for self-management. He believed that people needed a sense of ownership over their work to thrive, the opposite of the rote production line method that Taylor favored. In the past 20 years, thanks to the internet and personal computers, startup culture has matured, so much so that it has more recently merged with the phenomenon of internet celebrity to spawn what the author calls influencer culture. This is when individuals trusted by a large online community get paid for their endorsements. Unlike corporate culture, which is hierarchical, startups and influencers favor a more autonomous approach. Together, these concepts make up the three dominant work cultures of our time. Ultimately, the one that suits you best will depend on you and your motivations. Understand your personality type to decide which work culture is best for you. Have you ever heard of color grading in the context of film editing? It's the process of creating a mood for a scene by altering its exposure, saturation, and color tones. Once a filmmaker lands on the look she likes for one frame in the scene, she creates presets to create the same desired look for all other frames. The way the author sees it, everyone's personalities are defined by similar presets. For people, though, each preset represents where you are on the spectrum of a specific personality trait. And when choosing your career, it's important to think about what kind of work culture is the best fit for your unique blend of traits. The key message here is, understand your personality type to decide which work culture is best for you. Since each culture, whether corporate, startup, or influencer, is vastly different from the other, it's crucial to assess your presets to get a sense of which suits your personality most. And even though everyone behaves differently depending on circumstances, understanding your typical personality traits offers a reliable way of understanding yourself and how to interact with others. The 5-factor model, developed by psychologists Robert R. McCrae and Yuri Alec, gives you a great framework to start your introspective deep dive. It maintains that everyone is on a continuum of 5 main personality traits. Using the acronym OCEAN, they are: openness, how flexible you are in adopting new ideas or trying out new experiences; conscientiousness, how self-disciplined you are; extroversion, how sociable you are; agreeableness, how well you get along with others; and last, neuroticism, how well you handle stress, vulnerability, and insecurity. If you were to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 for each personality trait, where would you fall on the different spectrums? Rather than thinking of people in terms of types, quantifying personality traits like this can provide a more accurate picture. For example, you could mark high on conscientiousness at work, while at home you're much lower. Luckily, most people fall somewhere in the middle. But, in the end, it's not about reducing yourself to labels. Rather, it's about understanding the different shades of traits that make you you. It's also the first step to identifying whether you're suiting up for a corporate gig, joining a hackathon for a startup, or striking a pose as an influencer. What's more, the better you know yourself, the easier you'll understand what motivates you. If you view your work as your true calling, your motivation will flourish. Imagine you're a musician who's composed many beautiful songs, but somehow you can't seem to get any recognition. One day, a band covers one of your songs, and it breaks a bunch of records. The song's a hit. You know that it will touch many lives over generations, but nobody else will ever know you wrote it. How would you feel? As harsh as that scenario might sound, it makes you look at the real questions. Are you pursuing your career because you believe it's your true calling? Or are you simply motivated by the prestige and recognition? Knowing your true motivations will help you make the right decision for your personality. Here's the key message. If you view your work as your true calling, your motivation will flourish. Now that you've personally assessed the 5 personality traits laid out in the previous blink, maybe you've discovered some new insights you never realized before. Maybe you're an entrepreneur at heart, stuck in the corporate rat race. Or maybe the opposite is true. In fact, many people leave their jobs in pursuit of freedom, only to realize they lack the discipline to start a new business or simply don't enjoy it in practice. But before you make a huge leap in your career, establish what success looks like to you. For most people, it's about financial reward, positive impact, or recognition. For you, it may be different. Think about what truly motivates you to do your best work. And when contemplating your career, look for areas where your day-to-day doesn't match your personality traits or motivations. The higher the mismatch, the more likely it is that your career, or company culture, isn't right for you. If you want to succeed in the long term, homing in on what drives you is just as crucial as knowing your personality traits. For example, you may find that you rank low in extroversion, which means you'll probably want to avoid a career in public speaking. Or say your driving motivation is to have a large impact on climate change. That'll most likely happen as part of a larger organization rather than on your own. Pursuing your career requires effort, so being crystal clear on why you're doing it will help you stay the course. If you simply view work as a source of income, it will feel like a chore. But if you view it as a source of inspiration and motivation, it can enrich your life at large. Human qualities like emotional intelligence and empathy will help you thrive in the digital age. When psychologist Jennifer Aaker of Stanford University analyzed 72 studies performed between 1979 and 2009, she found a sharp decline in empathy over time. Although there's a lot we don't know about the exact impact of modern technologies on empathy, there is sufficient evidence that our reliance on gadgets and online exchanges might be making us less emotionally intelligent. This is partly because of the non-physical nature of many modern channels of communication. We can't connect with people's smiling faces or distraught voices when interacting via text message or social media. According to sociologist Daniel Goleman, social media usage may be weakening links in emotional relationships because of this disconnect. The key message here is, human qualities like emotional intelligence and empathy will help you thrive in the digital age. And yet, ironically, we need emotional intelligence in the digital age more than ever. After all, in a machine-driven world, human qualities only become more unique and valuable. To help deepen our emotional intelligence, Goleman developed an approach that has proven particularly popular in workplace environments. He explains that the value of emotional intelligence can be defined across three key areas: understanding yourself, understanding others, and having the ability to take action. Almost every situation involving emotional intelligence has those three components, so allow yourself to run through them before reacting in difficult situations. For example, you may be feeling incredibly nervous before a job interview. First, check in with your feelings. Confirm that you're feeling nervous. Next, ask yourself why you're feeling nervous. Obviously, in this scenario, you're probably worried you won't get the job. Finally, ask yourself what you can do to take action. What steps can you implement to improve your chances of getting that job? Maybe one solution is to research the company you're applying for and prepare for your interviewer's questions. Whatever it is, as soon as you have a plan of action, there's a good chance you'll feel better about your situation. Understanding yourself and taking action gives you control to remain personally motivated and optimistic during stressful times of change. In order to adapt to the future of work, you have to be creative and flexible. Picture a house and a tent. What do they have in common? Well, they both have a base, columns, an interior, and a roof. But, obviously, their architecture is completely different. One is designed to stay in place, while the other is meant to be portable. Sociologist Yuval Noah Harari uses this analogy to differentiate between old and new work identities. The future of work is still an uncharted frontier, so rather than the stationary house, you need to be a tent, always ready to pack up your career and move along the next path. The key message here is, in order to adapt to the future of work, you have to be creative and flexible. No one can accurately predict artificial intelligence's impact over the long term. Experts seem to disagree on the matter. While some predict that 40% of people will become jobless over the next decade, others foresee that evolving technologies will simply create new positions to replace the obsolete ones. No matter the impact, though, one outcome is for certain. We will all have to rethink our current professional roles, one way or another. Instead of job titles, the author suggests thinking about your role in terms of three key concepts: time, transition, and machines. Let's start by looking at the first two. Whether you're an employee, an entrepreneur, or an influencer, expect your relationship with time to change. That is, you'll have a lot more of it on your hands. With artificial intelligence and automation picking up some of the work, you'll need to evaluate how to stand out among your peers who have similar AI programs and automation scripts. Also, companies will value individuals who can help reimagine time by identifying which tasks can be automated or where human input is actually required to add value. In order to reimagine time and make the essential technological transition in your career, you need to get creative. But you don't have to be in a traditionally creative field to come up with innovative solutions. You simply need to hone your ability to improvise. Contextual creativity requires using a combination of knowledge and instincts to make decisions and adapt when faced with the unknown. Learning new skills and disciplines also equips you with more material with which to improvise as things are changing around you. But aside from time and transition, it's also important to embrace the rise of the machines. Human-machine relationships will define the future of work. Let's say you're an editor at a publishing house. One day, your company decides to introduce a machine learning algorithm to proofread manuscripts. You set up an algorithm on your computer to track your patterns and learn when you make changes. Essentially, you're training the algorithm to take over that part of your job. The upside to productivity is easy to see. With more time on your hands, you can focus on other aspects of your work. But now imagine there were thousands of other human editors training the same algorithm. The larger the scale of machine learning, the scarier it can be to imagine just how quickly algorithms can take over a human task. Here's the key message. Human-machine relationships will define the future of work. In the past, computers were only used as aids for processing information. But now, with smart algorithms and machine learning, we can train computers to take on entire jobs. As machines continue to play a greater role in society, it's becoming more crucial than ever to be well-versed in the human aspects of artificial intelligence. You don't have to be a tech developer to respond to technological disruption in your field. All you need is a solid conceptual understanding of the technology needed to do your job, as well as the ability to work in a technology-driven environment. As we've already seen, you'll also need to develop uniquely human skills like emotional intelligence, empathy, adaptability, and contextual creativity. For now, even the most advanced technology can't substitute people's capacity for contextual creativity. But no one knows for how long that will be the case. The ethics of artificial intelligence is another great concern of our time. With every email you write or picture you post, you're training machine learning algorithms. Large corporations like Google, Facebook, and Amazon are reaping the data and monetary benefits. Questions about the philosophical, ethical, and humanistic implications of technological change are burgeoning. And it's worth considering the good, the bad, and the ugly. After all, we may be in the early days of artificial intelligence, but you can bet that machines aren't going anywhere, and that they'll continue to radically transform the landscape of work. The exponential rise of artificial intelligence is transforming jobs across every industry. In order to thrive in the future of work, determine which of the 21st century work cultures is for you: corporate, startup, or influencer. By investigating your mindset and motivations, you can discover your most compatible work environment and embrace technological disruption.